Today we're walking in the slum areas of Kolkata to do the polio drops again. So you can see where we are. Watch where you're walking. And also watch the traffic because it's very crowded here. You see how they're living here? It's a very important drops too. You know, they need to be immunized against polio. It's amazing the work that has been done in India. And that this is celebrating the 10th anniversary of being polio free in India because of these vaccinations that we're doing today. The diligence of the Rotarians here, the diligence of the healthcare workers, making sure that every child in India has been vaccinated. That's what's important. And folks said, you know, if we don't vaccinate every child in the world, no child is safe. So
Okay. Nail. Okay.
All right. If you can do the other hand, it'd be better, but I can get that.
बस कैसे लगी बेटा?
I guess you got two.
इसको निशान लगा दो. निशान मार कर.
I love that. It's
I
great.
got it. I got it.
Good.
ऊपर देख बेटा ऊपर.
Like WHO and all that. So today is the practical aspect we saw, that how we work actually. And Dr. Jay Prakash is District Immunization Officer here for this. This is a big district and he got a challenging job because we have a very wide range of community population lives in this part of world in India.
You heard him say that right next door. People ask us all the time, why do we come to India? They've been polio free for 10 years. Why? He told you why. The threat is right there. It's just a footprint away from the border. And someone comes in this country, it can start again, and it comes with a vengeance. So that's why it's so important for us to continue to help eradicate, take that message back. This is our legacy, folks. We made a promise to the children of the world. We need to keep that promise. Thank you for being here.
Here.
Good evening and welcome to our monthly Foundation Matters webinar. Let's start with some housekeeping items. Please note the session is being recorded. We will share the recording and the slides following the webinar. Closed captions are enabled. If you haven't already done so, please select your preferred language from the menu at the bottom of your screen. We will have time for questions. Please put your questions in the Q&A box. We want to make sure we know who's with us this evening. So if you haven't already done so, take a moment right now to type your name, club, and district into the chat box. Now let me introduce myself. I'm Sandra Hempstead, Regional Rotary Foundation Coordinator for Zone 34, and I'll moderate this event. Joining me this evening, we're fortunate to have my colleague, Nancy Barbie, and Polio Now Coordinator from the Rotary Club of Maysville. That's in District 7730 and Zone 33. The raw footage you just saw in the video is from one of Nancy's many trips to India, where she volunteers to give those precious 2 drops that prevent children from contracting polio. Nancy will moderate our Q&A portion of the webinar tonight. Now, tonight we gather to hear a compelling story from a polio survivor who will share his firsthand experience of living with this debilitating disease. Club leaders will follow up with actionable ideas for hosting a successful World Polio Day celebration. And this will raise awareness and funds for polio. You'll hear about some flexible plug-and-play ideas for your World Polio Day event. Rotary senior leaders will share their thoughts about the crucial role that the Rotary Foundation plays in the global polio eradication efforts and reinforce our commitment and activities to end polio. All this in 45 minutes. Now, I'm pleased to welcome our two senior leaders present with us this evening. Please welcome first Robert Hall, past Rotary International Director and Vice Chair of the Rotary Foundation and Polio Now Countdown to History Committee. Robert is a member of the Rotary Club of Forsyth County, Georgia, in District 6910, Zone 34. We're thrilled to have Robert with us. Later in the webinar, he will be introducing our talented team of End Polio Now coordinators, and we're glad to have all of them with us as well. Let's welcome Patrick Eakes, our Rotary International Director for Zones 33 and 34 for the 2024 through 26 years. Patrick's a member of the Rotary Club of Crescent, North Carolina in District 7690 in Zone 33. At this time, I'd like to ask Director Patrick to offer his opening comments.
Thank you, Sandra. It's good to be with you, all of you this evening. And for those of you who attended our first ever Foundation Matters webinar last month, welcome back. And if it's your first time attending Foundation Matters, we're so glad that you've joined us. We trust that you'll find the next 45 minutes valuable. As Sandra shared, this webinar is focused on Rotary International's #1 external priority, the eradication of polio from our planet. Next month, leaders from all 31 Rotary districts that make up Zones 33 and 34 will gather in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, USA for our Zone Summit. The first day of our summit just happens to be October 24th, World Polio Day. We are fortunate that we will be in not only the home city of Rotary International Stephanie Yurchik, her president Stephanie Yurchik, but also in the city where Dr. Jonas Salk developed the polio vaccine. And we recognize that this is a tremendous opportunity to celebrate our work to end polio now and to learn more about the final drive to complete our collective goal. In addition to a very large End Polio walk that will take place along the waterfront in Pittsburgh, we're also producing a live stream event that will be attended by a global audience. During the live stream event, you'll hear from Dr. Peter Salk. He's a part-time professor at the University of Pittsburgh's Department of Infectious Disease and Microbiology, and he's also the son of Dr. Jonas Salk. Mike McGovern, chair of the International PolioPlus Committee, and John Germ, past Rotary International president and chair of our End Polio Now Countdown to History Committee, will also provide updates on our current and upcoming efforts to end polio. Rotary International President Stephanie Yurchik will share about her visit to frontline health workers who dispense the life-saving polio vaccine in Pakistan. And we'll also recognize many of the polio pre-pioneers. And if you don't know who the pre-pioneers are, they were the children in the Pittsburgh area who were first tested with the Salk vaccine before it was tested nationwide. This global live stream event, we really believe, is going to be a can't-miss event. So we invite you to join us at 5 p.m. Eastern Time on October 24th, World Polio Day. This is a great opportunity to have a watch party or even a special club meeting to celebrate the one project that we all support, ending polio. I hope you'll join us on October 24th at 5 p.m. Eastern, and shortly I'll place a link to the live stream in the chat so that you can use it for your watch party or your club meeting. The stories you're going to hear in the rest of this webinar are moving and inspiring. There are also firsthand accounts by Rotarian heroes who have lived with polio and have helped our organization move our effort to eliminate polio forward in significant ways. Our first presenter is past Rotary International President and current Rotary Foundation trustee, Jennifer Jones, and she'll report to us from Pakistan.
मैं इस काम को लीड करती हूँ कि एज ए वर्कर मैं बच्चों को पोलियो के कतरे जो है ना ठंडे दो वो मैं पिलाती हूँ। मैं कहती हूँ जैसे हमारे लिए पानी ज़रूरी है ना, इसलिए हमारे बच्चों के लिए ये वैक्सीन ज़रूरी है।
कैसे हैं आप लोग सब? हमारी कैंपेन का आज पहला दिन है। आपको पता है हमारी हर कैंपेन बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट होती है की वजह आप लोगों को पता होगा कि हमारे पास
I've seen so many amazing things in my life as a Rotarian, but nothing compared to 9 days in Pakistan, observing what it takes to reach every last child. My optimism in this program has never been higher, and that's because there are so many people out there who it's not 9 days, it's 9 months, it's 9 years. They've been in it for the long haul. When we went to the first house and knocked on the door and it opened, walked in.
अस्सलाम वालेकुम, क्या हाल है, कैसी हैं, तबीयत से ठीक है?
To be able to see firsthand what the workers were doing inside of that home. It's the mum to mum. It's the building of trust. And it's so much bigger than polio. We're looking for opportunity for women to gain and garner trust with each other. I can't thank them enough for what they do. With grace and with leadership.
I'm really excited to be able to learn from you. How have you seen a difference in polio vaccinations from when you started to where we are now?
मैं 2012 से इस पोलियो वर्कर में टीम में हूँ, यहाँ पे काम कर रही हूँ। अभी काफ़ी फ़र्क है, पहले हम घर जाते थे, कभी बच्चे को पिलाते थे, कभी छोड़ देते बच्चे को, यानी चलो बच्चे फेरे वो नहीं पिलाएंगे कुछ भी नहीं होगा। अभी तो बहुत ज़रूरी है, घर जाकर बच्चे का पूरा डेटा लेते हैं। अगर कोई बच्चा हमसे रह भी जाते हैं, हम दोबारा जाके उनको पिलाते, वैक्सीन करते।
We're out in the field immunizing children, and these door-to-door health workers are carrying a paper register, filling out all of the data. It goes back into a center where it's digitized and put into, a data collection area. I am absolutely amazed at the level of accuracy that happens.
This is one of the child, age 16 months, house number, and the number of round missed. These are the persistently children. So
how they take that data and drill it right down to a home, to a community, to a child who's refused, who we need to go back to. It is to a finite science, and I was blown away by seeing the level of intensity of what we're seeing at the National Emergency Operations Center, our partners there, what they've been able to accomplish, what we've all been able to accomplish. We're in good hands, both from a decision-making perspective and from a frontline perspective. There's a lot of women who are integrated into the campaign throughout in leadership roles as well, everything from decision makers at the National Emergency Operations Center to doctors to the health minister. And seeing those things up close and personal was really impactful for me. We need to understand that every piece of advocacy that we can do, every story that we can tell, every door we can open, every dollar we can raise, it goes towards making sure that these children that I've just been in the field with are going to walk.
हम ये चाहते हैं कि ये हमारे जो ठंडे कतरे जो है ना हर बच्चे के मुंह तक पहुंचे ताकि कोई बच्चा मजदूर ना रहे और पोलियो फ्री हमारा पाकिस्तान हो जाए.
I want our Rotary family to know that the end is in sight. I want our Rotary family to know that their work has meant something and that it means something. But I also want everyone to know we're not done, and we need to be vigilant.
I thought past RI President Jennifer's comments were inspiring, and it was just amazing to see the children and the health workers, very inspiring, and I hope you enjoyed that video as much as I did. Now I'd like to introduce our speaker, John Nanni. John is the district polio chair, and he's also a polio survivor. John is a member of the Rotary Club of Midtown Odessa Townsend in District 7630. John, we truly appreciate you sharing your experience with us.
Sandra, thank you so much. Hi, everyone. Thank you for inviting me to present my story on polio and why we must eradicate polio. When I'm presenting to Rotarians, I often feel I'm preaching to the choir because so many Rotarians are so dedicated to ending polio. However, often many Rotarians know little about polio and often nothing about post-polio syndrome, how we are saving millions from a life of pain and suffering by ending polio. I'm here today as a polio survivor representing an estimated 20 million polio survivors in the world. Many of them, especially in developing countries, will never get the medical care I have been so blessed to get my whole life. As a Rotarian, I'm representing about 21 million people saved from polio, walking around today because of the incredible progress Rotary and its world partners have made in protecting children with polio vaccinations. Next slide. The picture on the left is me when I started to walk. What's interesting in this photo is what's missing. My mom refused to have my leg braces photographed for fear that people would ostracize me or my family because I had polio. Many times, people were quarantined, even whole blocks were quarantined. It was very fearful. My journey with polio began 6 months before the Salk vaccine was widely tested. I was only 10 months old when I was paralyzed from my neck down with polio. My mom did physical therapy on me so my muscles didn't atrophy while I was paralyzed. My mom did such a great job on me. I walked a year later. I actually played baseball, basketball, and football in high school. I was very clumsy, and my coaches didn't know I had polio, and they often yelled at me and often called me lazy. It was a very frustrating time in my life. And that was polio for a lot of us polio survivors. Again, I was one of the lucky ones. I was blessed because I was too young to remember having polio. My mom would tell me how I would scream in pain when she stretched my muscles while I was paralyzed. The photo, no, back up, please. The photo on the left, on the right is, for those who were older when they got polio, they remember all too well the pain and suffering and how many of them suffered through multiple painful corrective surgeries. One friend of mine even had their good leg shortened 5 inches to match their polio leg so they could walk without a limp. Next slide. These are some of the symptoms those of us with post-polio syndrome often occur. These symptoms show up about 30 to 40 years after the original polio virus, and as many as 70% of those paralyzed by polio. The polio virus doesn't come back. The muscles that took over for the damaged polio muscles start dying off early from overuse. When I turned 40, I started having most of these symptoms on the screen. Eventually, after seeing 10 different doctors in 2 years, many of them never having seen a polio survivor, I was finally diagnosed with post-polio syndrome. Many never get that diagnosis of post-polio syndrome and suffer without knowing why. Over 30 years later, I'm confined to a wheelchair for most of my mobility. For every child we save from polio, we truly are saving them from a life of pain and suffering. The old adage of use it or lose it had to be replaced for me by conserve to preserve. I've learned there's very little I can't do. I just have to find a different way of doing it. And I'm lucky I live in a world where there are organizations like Rotary International and Rotarians like yourself who care about the welfare of others and who put service above self. Next slide. So while confronting the new challenges of today, it's important that we continue to fight to end polio, to sustain our commitment to the children of the world that we made in 1985, and to reach our fundraising goal of $50 million that qualifies us for the full Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation matching monies. Our 50 million becomes 150. Hopefully by June 30th, 2025, with your help, we will reach that goal again this year. Rotary was there at the beginning of this monumental effort to eradicate polio, and we must be there at the end. The PolioPlus program is the root of all of Rotary's current 7 areas of focus. The PolioPlus program taught Rotary the importance of partnerships with other organizations, both public and private. It created a model of how Rotary operates today. Rotary's PolioPlus is and will be our legacy. What would that legacy look like if we don't eradicate polio? Let's make history today. Rotary celebrates World Polio Day every October 24th, but for the kids in the world that we haven't vaccinated, World Polio Day should be every day. We still have work to do. Thank you for your continued support and for listening to my story. And now let's welcome Colleen Jennings of the Rotary Club of Vero Beach Sunrise from District 6930 in Florida. Colleen, we are eager to hear about your multi-club effort to celebrate World Polio Day.
Thank you, John, and thank you for sharing your story with us. Here in Indian River County, we found Oktoberfest was a great event to raise awareness and gain funds for PolioPlus. Since its inception in 2009, founded by past District Governor Arthur Hodge, was the brainchild of this idea. And since then, we have raised $110,000 towards PolioPlus. We get involved with 5 clubs every year: the Rotary Club of Vero Beach, the Rotary Club of Vero Beach Oceanside, Orchid Island, Sunrise, and Sebastian all come together for this one main event where we build camaraderie, raise money for PolioPlus, and just have a wonderful time. It also is a great way to introduce potential and new members to Rotary and what we're all about, and all while having fun and raising money for polio. It's not just about beer and brats every year. We come together to unite for a far greater cause, eradicating polio worldwide. One way to get your clubs to participate would be, starting a committee. It's a lot of fun. We actually started it with having past presidents from each club, president-elects from each club join in, and they would, designate what we're doing each year as far as games, food, things of that nature. We have silent auctions that we do, live auctions that we get from our community, hotel stays and things like that. And we gain money for this worthy cause. In attendance, we have over 200 members each year. Their guests come to enjoy food, beer, and fellowship. We have a German spread, silent and live auctions, and games and contests. Why it matters. Polio eradication, despite tremendous efforts, polio remains a global health issue in some regions. Every dollar raised to Oktoberfest brings us closer to eradicating this preventable disease. The collaboration of these 5 Rotary clubs reflects the power of unity for a cause that touches communities worldwide. If you're considering hosting an event like this, please feel free to reach out. I'd be more than happy to guide you through it. It doesn't have to be the same event. It could be a St. Patty's Day party or a spring fling or something that excites your club and your community. And if you're not sure where to begin, like I said, call, text, or email me and I'd be happy to help you out. Remember, it doesn't have to be big at first. Start small and let it grow from there. In closing, Oktoberfest in Indian River County is a symbol of Rotary's unwavering commitment to service. It combines fun, tradition, and community with the mission of making a difference, proving that when people come together, they can change the world one pint at a time. Thank you for listening to me. It's been my pleasure. And it's my pleasure to introduce Paul Walter from the Rotary Club of Hilton Head Island. Paul is the District Rotary Foundation Chair for District 7730. Paul will share an opportunity to use Rotary's crowdsourcing platform called Raise for Rotary. Paul, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Colleen. In a few minutes, I want to walk you through an easy way to set up a fundraising platform using Raise for Rotary. There are endless occasions that you can use this for to raise funds and to donate. You can be used for personal events, athletic events, Rotary events, or just any extraordinary idea that you can think of. So to begin with step 1, you'll start by going to raise.rotary.org. This is the website that will lead you through the steps that I'll take you through. On the middle of this site, you'll see Start Fundraiser. So it's just that easy. You click the button. It takes you to step 2. Step 2 will ask you if you want to choose to be an individual or you're forming a team. And then within step 2.5, that's when, if you choose team, you would come up with your team name. So you could choose Team TRF or Team Rotary Club of, or whatever you can dream up. And then with step 5, it will take you, excuse me, step 3, it will take you through choose the occasion. So if you're choosing for a celebration, create your own challenge or a memorial, you can choose one of these selections. And then next step is to take you to what you would want to support. You would be choosing from one of the options that's here. There are all the areas of focus that we have available in the foundation funds. You could fundraise to end polio, as we've been talking about and will continue to talk about. Respond to disasters, fight disease, strengthen peace efforts, provide clean water, support education, and more. So you would pick your area to support here, and then step 5, you'll set your fundraising goal. You can pick one of the items that is here or the amounts that is here, or you can customize it and set your own amount. And then you're almost done. You're nearly done. So it's been so easy to set this up. At least I hope you'll find that. On this page, you'll add your name, a username, an email, a password. This allows you to get back into the account that you'll be setting up. And you can add also your club's information so that you'll be able to track how much is collected in whatever fundraising effort you choose, so that it may track back to your fundraising goals. And then the last step is to inspire your community. Share your fundraiser out with your friends, colleagues, neighbors, family. Don't be shy who you share it with. Turn your network into fundraising supporters and foundation supporters. Make sure that as you're collecting the donations, that you're updating everyone on your progress. And so now that you know how to set one up, you can do this in these easy steps, and you can set your own up for your club or yourself or whatever group you choose to. Or you could join in on this World Polio Day fundraiser that is going on from now until October 24th. So this is an opportunity for you to join in with the Raise for Rotary efforts, and this will be a zone-wide initiative. You'll see the links down here at the bottom of this slide as to where you would click on and ultimately donate towards the World Polio Day. So again, thank you all for what you're doing. Thank you for this opportunity and I want you to make this impact, and ultimately you're doing good in the world by raising for Rotary. So again, thank you, and I'll turn it over to Sandra.
Thanks very much, Paul. Now we have time for questions for John, Colleen, and Paul, and I'm going to ask our Worldwide PolioPlus Society leader, Kim Walden, to be available for questions that you might have about the PolioPlus Society. While you're starting to put your questions in the Q&A box, I'd like to thank each of our presenters. John, it's so important for us to understand your experience and the impact polio has made on your life and that of many children. Colleen and Paul, I can't thank you enough for sharing such great ideas on how to raise Rotary awareness and fundraise for our eradication efforts, while we also celebrate our achievements on World Polio Day. Now, I'd like to turn the meeting over to End Polio Now coordinator, Nancy Barbie, who will moderate the Q&A segment. Nancy?
Thank you, Sandra. And I'd like to thank my colleagues, Zone 33 End Polio Now coordinator, Colleen Bonadonna, and Zone 34 End Polio Now coordinator, Jeff Michaelman, for helping me make sure I don't miss any questions. Let's see if there's any questions in the Q&A. Right now, we have someone that wants to make sure that you post the links to the sites on the slide, and make sure that they are maybe in the chat box. One question is, how do you join the PolioPlus Society? Kim Walden, how about answering that for us? Kim?
Nancy, I think Kim is backstage and she's sharing her screen, so she is not available to answer that for us.
Okay, PolioPlus Society. Can we have an answer from Robert Hall? I'm going to call on Robert to answer that question. Robert, you're muted.
I'm not now. Okay. So we'll talk a little bit about the PolioPlus Society later. I'll talk about it some, but right now, let me just tell you that you can find out how to do the PolioPlus Society by going to RI Zones 3334 website. You can become an individual member by going to endpolio.org/donate.
And we'll have those. Thank you, Robert. We'll have those links in the chat box, and also on. There's some other additional resources that we can point you to.
Yeah.
Question for I think this would be a good question for John. How will Rotary handle the suspension of polio vaccine campaigns by the Taliban in Afghanistan? And I'd like to add a little bit of that one too. And why do we continue to have additional polio problems in Pakistan and Afghanistan? John, can you give us an insight on that? Is John gone?
Well, I don't know. There's Sean Patty.
I don't see him, but we might ask Robert to answer that again.
That's right. No, there's
John. Wait a minute. There's John.
How will Rotary handle the suspension of polio vaccine campaign by the Taliban in Afghanistan?
Well,
John, you're on mute.
Okay, I could not hear anything because I was put in backstage. Could you repeat the question?
Yes. How will we handle the suspension of polio vaccine campaigns by the Taliban in Afghanistan?
Well, I know we're in contact with Taliban, our PolioPlus leaders like Michael McGovern, and they're trying to work out. We originally did not get any reason why they suspended the vaccines. They've been very cooperative up until now, so it's very hard to tell, but I know they're working diligently on getting that back. And we'll continue to do the border vaccinations of people migrating from Afghanistan into Pakistan.
That's great. John, I had a question for you too myself. I don't see it in the chat or in the Q&A, but I had a question. Why are there more cases now in Afghanistan and Pakistan? We went down and now we're back up again. Why is that?
Well, in some reasons, the governments took their eye off the ball, which can happen, but also we're in areas up until the suspension in Afghanistan, we're in areas that we haven't been in 20 or 30 years to vaccinate. So we're finding cases that were unreported for a couple of decades, and now we're finding those cases and we're in there vaccinating.
Good answer. Good answer. Absolutely. And that's very important for us to go into places we've never been before. I have another question. Did Rotary have a role in the recent polio vaccination in Gaza? I'm going to ask that to Kim. Kim Walden, are you online now? Did Rotary have a role?
Thank you, Nancy. Yes, so Rotary has helped to provide $500,000 to help with vaccinations in Gaza. So the GPEI also helped provide, I believe it was 1 million doses, and this is going to help us as well. And we are so glad that we were able to do that, and your dollars make all the difference to help us with things like this. So thank you for all the things that you're doing to help us end polio now. It all matters.
Thank you, Kim. That was a question that's been on everybody's lips for the past several weeks. And we are fundraisers and we are advocates. We don't get involved in any of the political movements and with World Health Organization and UNICEF and those types of things. Another question, do we know how many cases have been identified in Gaza? Anyone have an answer for that one? Do we know how many cases?
I believe officially only one, but For every case of diagnosed case of polio, there's as many as 200 cases undiagnosed. So they know there are many, many more cases, but they're finding less environmental samples in Gaza than they were a couple of weeks ago prior to the start of the vaccinations.
Great. Thank you, John. I know that I've read recently that they've started their third vaccination campaigns in Gaza. So they're diligent about making sure that it's eradicated there and taken care of. Let me see if there's any more questions in the chat. I don't see any, but I've got a question for Colleen. Colleen, are you there? Colleen Jennings? Is she still on? I'm not sure she's still on.
I'm here. I'm here. Sorry.
How did you encourage the clubs to join together? I think that's an issue for a lot of clubs, that getting other clubs to join with them. Was that just a natural occurrence that happened, or was there how did you do that? How did you make sure that other clubs joined with you?
It was actually before my time, so that would be more of a question for Arthur Hodge. He was the one who was the brainchild behind this, but he brought everybody together. We all give an equal share. It's divvied up between 5 clubs, and that's how we donate. So, and it's been a fun event for everybody. So everybody really enjoys it, and I think that that's what's kept it together for so long. And it's been a very good turnout, and I think getting everybody involved in that regard and keeping them together has been good, because there's a lot of good camaraderie, and everybody said it's one of their favorite committees to serve on. So I think having fun while raising money is a big thing for a lot of people.
Okay, that's great. Well, that was a great. It looks like a great event. So congratulations to that.
Thank you.
I encourage other clubs that are listening to get your neighboring clubs to join with you. That's a great example of that. I'm going to ask. I'm picking on you, John. It seems like, but you probably know more about this than anyone on this call. Does Rotary support any post-polio syndrome activities?
Rotary International does not officially support any post-polio syndrome activities. Their main focus is the eradication of polio, but there are districts and zones and areas and Rotary clubs that support it. You're well aware of hospitals in India that deal with the post-polio syndrome, and there are on Facebook many post-polio support groups that are absolutely awesome and very, very helpful.
And it's my understanding too that Rotary at one time and may still have a Rotary action group for post-polio syndrome or polio survivors. Not any longer?
Not any longer, no.
There's a post-polio advocacy group that I know that is run by Anna Pinckney. So, and she has calls from different places, but that's about the only thing I know about too.
Yeah, there's a great polio post-polio syndrome support group in Pennsylvania that really deals all throughout the whole world, and Anna Pinckney is part of that.
That's great. That's great. It is a real issue, that's for sure. All right, here's another question. Are all districts in zones 33, 34 still contributing 20% of their DDF to PolioPlus? And I'm going to answer that one, and the answer is yes. We are diligently working for every district to contribute their 20%, and I think there's only a few to date that have not contributed their 20% in zone 33 and in zone 34. So yeah, we're still giving their 20%, and that is a big push for us. Robert will tell you more about that too. Okay, I don't see any more questions. So thank you all for your questions, and thank you for being on this call. I've learned a lot myself tonight, and it's been a great event. But it's my pleasure now to introduce Past Director Robert Hall, and you heard from Sandra that he's a member of the Rotary Club of Forsyth County, And he does serve as the vice chair of the Rotary Foundation in Polio Now Countdown to History Committee. He's also my boss. So Robert, it's all yours.
Thank you, Nancy. I really am reminded of the inverted pyramid when it comes to boss and leadership. I'm at the bottom, supporting everybody above me who do all the work. And so the first thing I'd like to thank you, there's 60-something people, and I appreciate y'all signing in today. First thing I want to do is introduce, and I hope all y'all know these people, at least the one that works with your district. But these are the regional and Polio Now coordinators, and in 33, they split by the northern part, and then the Carolinas, Colleen and Nancy. And then in 34, we have 3 people, Bruce Azevedo in Georgia, and Lindsay in the Caribbean islands, Puerto Rico, and the 2 islands there, and then Jeff in Florida. Worldwide, supporting everything we do social media wise is Kim Walden, and she lives in 34, but she's in charge of our social media and PolioPlus Society. So I think we got a great team, and they're ready to work with all of your leaders. We ask them to work with your district governor chain and your DRSC and your PolioPlus chair. And those people should be working with the clubs in your district. So I thank you for that. We talked already about, let me just stop a minute and talk about, before I go to this slide, and just say that the conversation on Gaza was really good. And I'm going to send everybody a video and an article. We've given 560,000 vaccines so far. And in another 3 weeks, there's another round coming up. Central Africa, there's a lot happening there that I'll send you some information on. I'll tell you about the video and from Gaza. There is another manufacturer of the video of the vaccine. And so that's great that we have another manufacturer right now that helps us. But I want to really thank you for last year, and I'll maybe save it since time is tight and this is a different screen up right now. But y'all really did, both regions 40 and 41, as zones 33 and 34 led the world last year and on a great track this year. But we talked about this already, and I think this is critical. About 4 years ago, I heard about the PolioPlus Society from the West Coast, and they had over 1,000 people out there that were giving in July immediately their gift to be a member of the PolioPlus Society. Well, those 1,000 people were given about $400,000, and so immediately in July, that's a lot of daggum money to start off with. But I thought the PolioPlus Society, Kim and I worked on it, and past foundation chair Brenda Cressy is in charge of it, that I asked Brenda, why can't we take this thing worldwide? That there's too many people that are not participating, like probably 1 out of 11 people actually participate in giving to polio. And as Nancy Barbie says, if you don't give anything, this is not your legacy. I give, probably most of you on this call, or all of you give, it's our legacy. But when you think about 1 out of 11 people give listen, this is true in our zones also. It's not just worldwide, but that we want it to be everybody's legacy. So this is not as much about raising money. It's about engaging people and people feeling good about what we're doing in the world. We've already talked about how you do this individually. You go to endpolio.org/donate. If you're at a district level and you want to see how to set up the PolioPlus Society, go to the next RI Zones 33-34 website, and it will step you through how to do that. So all the information's there, and we're hoping some clubs, we have a number of clubs that are 100% PolioPlus Society clubs. When we think about PolioPlus Society, and it's really at a club level and individual level to be a member. But you and I know that every president of Rotary the last number of years has asked each club to give $1,500 to PolioPlus. It's harder for a 10-person club and it's easier for a 300-person club. but it's really not all that difficult for any club, in my opinion. And so we have created a PolioPlus Society Champion Club. And this says if your club gives $1,500, we're going to give you the certificate signed by your coordinator and signed by your foundation chair and signed by your governor. So I want you to tell the clubs as you promote this, if you're a governor or a DRSC or PolioPlus chair, that we want to recognize those clubs who are absolutely making a difference. When I look at the club giving last year, we really were pretty good. That we outgave most every club at zone 33, 81%, and zone 34, 75%. And worldwide, it was more like 60%. So we did great, but we want to get better at that and get also individual Rotarians giving. Let me see what the next slide says. The next slide is Patrick already talked about. This is going to be exciting. Now, you can say, I do have my shirt on. I'm going to get a long sleeve shirt, right? When Patrick's going to name me a long sleeve shirt. And I'm already, by the way, in racing for Calgary. I hope you're racing for Calgary. But in Pittsburgh, it's just going to be so exciting. And in fact, Patrick enabled anybody almost who would like to go. And I talked to John Nanni about this. He'll be there. That you can sign up. If you're not a DG or a PDG, you can sign up for this one-day event on October 24th and start with lunch and end with a big gala dinner and experience everything we do on polio with the panelists, with the walk we're doing for $200. And I think that's terrific. So I know John's going to be there, and I'm not sure because I've told all of the Ed Polio coordinators, and I hope they've been telling your district and you're telling your clubs. The last thing I do want to show you is just this one slide that I want to challenge you to do just a couple of things that, and this is it. Host, and you've talked about a World Polio Day event, and you heard that talked about earlier today, Oktoberfest, whatever you want to do, this is World Polio Day. The live stream will be from 5 to 6 o'clock, and I think Patrick said, or I can send it to the EPNCs, there's a link from 5 o'clock to 6 o'clock. You've heard about the Raise for Rotary. I mean, this is terrific, I think. It's easy to set up. I know Lindsay Cancino, District 7020. Paul has also set up the Raise for Rotary there. And all the clubs, I don't know if we join, each district does one, Paul, or they join the one you have for 33, 34, but each member and club will get credit for what is raised for Rotary during this week. So I encourage you to do that, this is a lay down. I mean, you just saw how easy it is to do that. And so I hope you do that. I really thank you for DDF. Last year, it was unbelievable. We had out of 31 districts, we had 27 participate in giving 20%. And this year, we've already had, I think it's 13 or 14 participate out of the districts giving 20%. So, it's starting off great. You're doing the job, and I appreciate all of you and all you do. So thank you very much, Sandra, for letting me be here.
Thank you, Robert, for your comments. And thank you for introducing your End Polio Now coordinators. These guys are fabulous. And if you haven't spoken to them, please feel free to call them with questions. They're great. We will be sending you an email with a link to the recording of tonight's webinar, along with a link to register for the October 17th webinar. Please note that these items can be found also at the RI Zones 3334 webpage. There's a drop-down box for the foundation, and you can look for Foundation Matters. As you exit the webinar tonight, you'll receive a quick pop-up survey. We'll use the feedback that you give us to shape future webinars. In fact, we asked John Nanni to speak tonight based on a recommendation from last month's survey. So please feel free to provide names of folks that you think would be good speakers. Our next Foundation Matters webinar will be on October 17th at 6 p.m. And this concludes our webinar for tonight. Thank you to all of our presenters, and thank you for those of you that participated. We appreciate it. Have a good evening.